Sixth graders. So we left off on Monday with Miss Arthur. Miss Arthur was reading about how Charlie, his job in the army, he had to kill and gut and skin the horses to feed the sick men their meat. And Charlie was so disgusted and he was in such a foul mood. Then the troops gathered and then they started marching off for over 20 miles to go to a battle. Okay? So, in the middle of chapter 8, off to their left, well away, close to a mile, an absolute inferno raged. Artillery from both sides covered the battlefield with smoke, and the din of the cannon and rifle fire was constant and deafening. Whenever the smoke cleared in small gusts of breeze, he could see men dropping by the hundreds, broken and crumbled and falling. Nothing, Charlie thought as he watched the fight, absolutely nothing could live through that, and he was grateful that it was happening to the others and not him. "There they are!" somebody near him cried. "In the trees!" Charlie squinted and saw them. Not infantry this time, but assembling back in the trees were troops of cavalry, the horses jostling each other and kicking as they were pulled alongside each other. "They're going to come at us! They're sending horses against us!" somebody yelled. "Ready on line!" An officer in front of them walked back and forth with a saber. "Do not fire until directed, and then fire at will. On my command the first time. Front ranks kneel." Charlie was in the second rank, and he stood while the front rank kneeled. The horses moved out of the trees, walking forward in a line. Close on 100 of them. Charlie thought, watching. There was 100, and they're going to ride over us. He saw the glint of sun on cavalry sabers and carbines. There were still 300 yards distant, but he could see the shine of the horse's hair and the splash of light off bridle hardware and chest straps. The horses began to walk faster, and then trot, the men holding them in good line. "Present arms!" officers and sergeants called, and the men raised their rifles, cocking the hammers. "Wait for it! Wait for it!" "Not yet, boys, not yet." A sergeant in front moved back into the ranks to get out of the line of fire. "Aim for the horses. When you get the command, aim low. Hit the horses to break the men." More meat for the sick, Charlie thought, and felt bad for having to kill the horses. He didn't fret the men at all. They were going to kill him, and he didn't mind killing them first. But he hated shooting the horses. They started to canter. 200 yards now. 150. Ready. 100 yards. The rebel troopers were screaming that chuttering, high-pitched rebel yell, and the horses were full out eating the distance. 50 yards. I could hit them with a chucked corn cob, Charlie thought. Spit flying out of the horses' mouths, hooves rumbling against the frozen ground. We'll never stop them, Charlie thought. No way in Hades can we stop them. Fire! At no more than 30 yards, over 600 men fired in a volley at 100 charging horses. The result was devastating. Charlie held high and took a trooper full in the chest. But most of the other men held on the horses, and not one animal came through unhit. In a great cloud they went down, somersaulting, rolling over the troopers on their backs, breaking themselves and the men, and the screams of the wounded horses, hit by soft, large caliber expanding bullets, horses with heads blown open, horses with jaws shot away, horses with eyes shot out or with intestines tangling in their hoofs. Horses torn and dying scream louder than 1,000, louder than 1,000,000 men. Reload and fire at will. Charlie automatically loaded, raised, and fired, but there were few targets. Those horses, back on their feet, were quickly shot down, and any man who stood was hit 10, 20 times. Cease fire. Silence except for the screaming horses and the groaning of wounded men. Charlie reloaded, capped his rifle, and kneeled, resting. He was thirsty and took a sip from his canteen. He did not look at the horses stumbling and kicking and falling. What was that? He wondered. What was that? He wondered. Just the one in charge. It was nearly dark now. A soft dusk, and he looked to the rear to see where they might camp for the night and get fires going for coffee and heat. He loved coffee, though it tore his guts and gave him a constant stomachache. He thought of going to the shattered Confederate charge to see if they had any good sugar in their saddlebags. There was good sugar in the South, and he might find some for his coffee. He salivated, thinking of coffee with sugar in it. On the left! Form line of battle and wheel left! He turned, and his heart nearly stopped. Coming from their left oblique, walking toward them in the gathering twilight, seemed to be the whole rebel army. 2,000, Charlie thought. Maybe 3,000 of them, marching straight at Charlie in a head-on attack. And we are going to stop there for right now, 6th graders. Hope you enjoyed.